You knew you were right. You said nothing. And you've been wondering why ever since. Maybe it was a meeting. Someone said something wrong, factually wrong, clearly wrong, and you sat there, perfectly quiet, perfectly still. And later, alone, in your car, in the shower, at 2 a.m, you thought of exactly what you should have said. Most people call this a failure of confidence. They say, next time, speak up. They say, your voice matters. They say, be more assertive. And you nod. You know they're right. You've heard it 100 times, and the next time comes, and you go quiet again. Not because you forgot, not because you're afraid, because something deeper than confidence is running the show. There is a reason people who are often the most perceptive in the room, the most accurate, the most observant, are also the most silent, and it has nothing to do with shyness. There are 3 things happening when you go quiet. None of them are what you think they are. And the third one, the one nobody ever names, is the one that explains everything. Here's the first thing. Your silence isn't a decision. It happens before you decide anything. There is a mechanism in human psychology called the spiral of silence. A German political scientist named Elisabeth Noelle-Neumann identified it in 1974. She discovered something that should have changed how we think about quiet people forever. People do not go silent because they lack confidence. They go silent because their nervous system runs a calculation so fast, they don't even know it happened. In less than a second, before you've processed a single word, your brain has already assessed. Is my view the majority view, or am I alone in this? And if the answer is alone, something in you shuts down, not the voice, the decision to use it. Noelle-Neumann called this the quasi-statistical organ, a 6th sense for reading the room, so fast, so automatic, that by the time you know you have an opinion, the window to share it has already started closing. You didn't choose silence. Silence chose you, before you even knew you had something to say. But that's only the beginning, because there's a second reason, and this one isn't about the room. It's about something that happened long before any of these rooms existed. Think back, not to work, not to relationships, to earlier. Was there a time when you spoke up and nothing changed? When you said that's not right, and were told you're overreacting? When you named something true and were met with dismissal, or silence, or a look that said, this isn't the time? Most people had a version of that moment. For some, it was once. For others, it was hundreds of times. And here's what the brain does with that information. It doesn't file it under that didn't work. It files it under, I am not someone who gets heard. Psychologists call this learned voicelessness, not introversion, not shyness, not a personality trait. A conclusion your nervous system reached, based on evidence. Speaking up didn't change anything. It sometimes made things worse. Silence was the only control I had. And here's the part that nobody says out loud. That conclusion was rational. In the context in which it was formed, it was the correct response. A child in a room where being right. doesn't get you heard. Staying quiet is not weakness. It's strategy. The problem is that the strategy outlived the situation. You're no longer in that room, but your nervous system never got the update. And now here's the part that changes everything. The part that most people who go quiet have never been told, because it reframes the silence entirely. In Greek mythology, there was a woman named Cassandra. She was given the gift of prophecy. She could see the future clearly, with total accuracy, every time. And she was cursed, not to be wrong, to be right, and never believed. She warned about the Trojan horse. She was ignored. Troy fell exactly as she said it would. Psychologists have a name for what Cassandra experienced: the Cassandra Complex. It describes the experience of perceiving something true and having that truth dismissed, doubted, or simply not heard. And here is what the research shows. People who carry the Cassandra wound don't go quiet because they lost confidence. They go quiet because they did the math. They spoke, they were right, and being right cost them more than being silent would have. The relationship, the room, the reputation, the peace. Being right when no one is ready to hear it is not a gift, it is a tax. And some people, the most observant ones, the ones who see the most clearly, paid that tax so many times that they stopped speaking. Not from weakness, but from a kind of exhausted wisdom. They know what's coming. They know what's true. And they've learned that knowing doesn't always mean saying. So what do you do with that, if your silence is a wound, dressed up as wisdom? What does it mean to actually speak again? It doesn't start with more confidence. It doesn't start with assertiveness training or a book about speaking up. It starts with a question. Who taught me that being right wasn't enough? Because somewhere, in a room, in a relationship, in a family, someone showed you that truth without power was pointless. That voice without authority wasn't worth the cost. And they were working with the information they had. So were you. But here's what's actually true. The silence that protected you then is costing you now. Every time you stay quiet in a meeting, when you know the answer, someone else gets credit for the thing you already understood. Every time you swallow the correction, the wrong thing moves forward, and you carry the private weight of knowing. The goal isn't to speak more. The goal is to understand that the calculation your nervous system keeps running. Is this safe? Is this worth it? Will anyone listen? Is using old data. Not the data of this room, not the data of this person, the data of the room you were in. When you first learned that being right wasn't the same as being heard. Updating that calculation is not a confidence exercise, it's a grief exercise. It means grieving the version of you who kept speaking and kept being dismissed until they learned to stop. That version of you was not wrong to go quiet. They were protecting something real. You just don't need that protection as much as you used to. If something in this landed, I want to know one thing. Was there a specific moment you remember going quiet when you knew you were right? Not a general pattern, a specific moment. Drop it in the comments. Not because engagement helps the algorithm, though it does, but because naming it is part of updating the calculation. And if someone in your life is the quietest person in the room and the one who always turns out to be right, send them this. They'll know why you sent it.